Two. So everybody, welcome. Okay, this is Pivot Posse, episode 5. We're on 5. We got Sam Allen Esquire. I love that. I always wanted to have like an Esquire or something. Like I just think that's like the best title, Esquire. Here with us from Law Mom. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sam.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Okay, and if you just want to let everybody know exactly, oh, Miranda's here. She says, "Hello, lovely ladies."
Hi.
Let everybody know just a little bit about you and Law Mom.
Okay, so I'm Sam Allen. Thank you for the awesome intro, and thanks everyone for being here. So I am Law Mom, and that's the name of my firm. I opened Law Mom after I had a traumatic birth with my son, Wes. He is almost 2 now. Where does the time go, right? I ask myself that every day. But you know, following that birth, I didn't have any planning in place, and I was a lawyer, and I knew that I should, and I didn't because like most people, I was like, I'm young, whatever. I'd rather spend money. We were renovating our house and doing a million other things. Well, what a wake up call that was, right? So we got our plan in place. And then I thought to myself, there has to be another message in all of this. And so I started reaching out in my community and finding out that a lot of parents like us didn't have plans in place. And I started to do tons of education, and Law Mom has been an awesome tool to really reach out and help other families protect their loved ones and keep them out of court and conflict, and making sure, they have peace of mind, most importantly. And it has been amazing. And I've met so many amazing people like you, Liz. So thank you so much.
I'm so happy to have you here. Can we just go back a little bit?
Oh,
Because I
yeah.
do think it's super interesting. Like, yeah, we're going to go back a little bit. You can't just get away with that. You graduate law school, right? And then
Yeah.
you decided like not to go into law right away.
Yeah, so I graduated law school, and I always joke about this, but I had a quarter life crisis, if you will. And I really thought, there's more to life, and I wanted to experience the world. I was super young when I went to law school. I graduated college and went right in, and I was working for a big firm in the city. And I don't know if anyone's ever felt like this, but I just didn't feel like the time was right. So unbeknownst to my family, I picked up and moved to Miami, Florida, and of all
Check
places.
y'all later. Going to Miami.
And, yeah. You can imagine the conversations that happened with my parents. So I ended up purchasing a condo down there and renovated it and did different businesses. And, I was always an entrepreneur. I come from an entrepreneurial family. So, I started meeting a lot of people and just living, and I had great experiences down there. And then I moved back to see my family, and I started doing marketing and helping out at, most people know, Edaville Family Theme Park. So I worked with them once they received the contract with Mattel to do Thomas Land. And it was such a great experience. And I met my husband, and he was like, you should really take the bar. Like should think about it. And I was like, okay, I'll try. And I took it, and now here we are. But it was one of those roundabout ways to get here. But honestly, all those experiences shaped who I am today. And I think everything needed to happen for this to happen, right? And me being able to really help people and relate to people,
Yeah.
because working with lawyers can be like a daunting process, and that's not what I want for any of my clients.
That's
So
amazing. Yeah, because I
yeah.
do know from experience that I've had some really good lawyers, and I've met some like really like, okay, I don't even feel comfortable talking to this person about what's going on. And you really want to be comfortable with that. So like when you decided not to go into law right away, like a lot of people, like they just feel like I've done all this stuff. I just have to do this, right? What was it inside of you that said, this is worth me breaking everybody else's expectations and perhaps those of my own to do that?
So I think that I don't know, honestly, there was like this fire in me that I just really wanted these other life experiences. And school at the time, like I just did what I did because I liked school and I was good at it. And then I kind of wanted to go and really find myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then one of my really, really good friends, she was moving out to Colorado, also went to law school. And she's like, I'm moving. And she was from New York. So she went, and I was like, I'm just gonna do what she's doing. But
You're
she
like,
went
but
with
I'm
other
gonna go for
people.
the sun. You're like, I'm
Yeah.
going for the sun. You go over
I was like,
there.
I'll visit you while you're cold. No, it's warm weather too. And I'll go to here and we can like visit each other. But she kind of like really like I don't know. It was one of those things. She was doing it and I was like, if she can do it, I can do it. And then I
Yes.
remember working at the firm I was at in Boston during school, and I saw these women who were my age now working, and I was just like, I don't know if this is like the path for me, right? Working for a big firm, and I wanted more freedom. And again, I came from a family of entrepreneurs, so I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I felt like there had to be more. And then as much as my family was upset in the sense of like, you're moving, you're not practicing law, like you did all this work, now they are like, we get it, like this was your path.
Yeah, that's so awesome to get that support and be brave enough to stand up at that time and be like, okay, this is what I'm doing. I'm like so in awe over that. And so then you became pregnant with your son. Were you already kind of working in law part-time a little bit, trying to figure out what was going on when you were pregnant with your son?
Yeah, so I was working for Edaville and then practicing law on the side part-time, figuring out, what I wanted to do, what practice area I wanted to get into, talking to mentors. The legal community is so great in terms of mentorship and really, figuring out where I fell. And I didn't want to do general practice. I wanted to focus on something, but I didn't know really what that was. And then that big message came and I was like, I have to do this. Like this is me, like for my community, because I wouldn't want anyone else to go through what I went through and what my husband went through, my family all together. And not everyone can sit in their hospital bed and do an estate plan, right? So luckily I
No,
could do
dude.
that.
Right. And like, I still like that image when you told me about that, like literally you're like in the hospital bed, pregnant, possibly gonna die. Here I am. No, honey, I can't like say goodbye to you right now because I need to just like type up this like legal agreement so everything is set just in case I don't make it. Like, A, to have like the wherewithal to like take a deep breath and be like, I need to get this done. B, to, be able to like just do that. Like not many people can. And then to see it from somebody else's perspective, that's just huge. Right?
Yeah, right, totally. And you know, part of the reason why I opened Law Mom too is because I wanted other moms in particular to have a voice, right? Because when I went through all of that at the hospital, I felt like I didn't have a voice. And
Hmm.
my job is to be the voice of others. So it kind of opened all of these doors. And I took such a bad experience and a traumatic one and really turned it into something so positive. So as much as I get to help others helping others has been therapeutic to me.
Yeah. And I think that,
Healing.
when because I'm a coach and stuff like that, right? So it's all about service. But like when you really think about it, it's when you will be more motivated when you find how you can serve others than even when you can serve yourself, right? It's the serving of others that really motivates us, I think, to make the bigger changes and things like that as well, right?
Oh, 100%. And all of my clients, like I'm so blessed and lucky for the clients that I have. They motivate me every single day, right? And my son motivates me and all of these things and just the conversations. And something that's cool about the type of law that I practice is that there's a lot of creative outlets that we can utilize. So I learn so much about people and learn from others how to help others. So it's just like it goes like 360.
100%. And then like when COVID hit, right, is when like stuff really changed for you then, because you were still kind of doing stuff part-time,
Yes.
right? And then COVID hit and you were in Edivos, so it's like entertainment and like event planning and things.
Right.
They were like,
So
this is done.
yeah, everyone knows what happened with that. So yeah, I was just kind of in this like limbo being like, okay, well, am doing this. Now it's time to like really hit the road running, right? Because I mean, I want to have a job and like do these things. So as much as COVID was terrible, in my case, it really basically catapulted me into law mom and
Yeah.
really being able to help others.
Yeah. And that's huge. And then you've also like been able to like work from home, but in a professional setting and things like that. Right. So
Yeah.
you've had several pivots, right? So which one do you think is like the biggest pivot for you?
I would say, oh, they're all so important, but I would think the traumatic birth, like I never thought that would happen ever.
That you
at my
wouldn't be
age.
planning an estate planning, like, while in the
No.
hospital? You didn't think that that was gonna happen, Sam? I'm so like
No, I was imagining this like awesome birth, like, oh, this is so great. And then I was like, what happened? And again, that's just going back to everything. And I believe everything happens for a reason, and that had to happen for me to be able to do this. And like how lucky I am to have the support of everyone, like you and the communities that we're in.
well, yeah, and I really think that the position that you were put in then puts you in a viewpoint for your clients to really understand the importance that maybe they don't understand. Like you said, you and your husband were young and healthy. Like, why do we even need to think about this? But people need to think about this because you never know what's going to happen. And if anything, COVID really showed us that, right?
Absolutely. And I really think, COVID brought to the forefront how important, like you're saying, estate planning is, even no matter where you are, right? It's so important for your wishes, children, family, everything. And the estate planning documents are really utilized as your voice if you can't speak due to incapacitation or if you pass away. And the last thing you want is, I think anyway, most people, a judge that doesn't know you making decisions for you and your family.
Yeah, that's kind of harsh, right? Because you
Yeah.
assume that things, I think a lot of people think they just assume that things will happen the way they're going to and like you when I talked to you earlier, you're like, no, that's not like really the case. And it's really kind of important to have this stuff like in line.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of misconceptions about like where children will go, whom they'll go to. They'll go to family members. That's not always true. And then just like assets being distributed, there's so many things that come into play. And if you can have a plan, it's just so much better for your family.
Yeah, for the family, I was gonna say that because, like, also the emotional stuff that they're going through, and then to have to think about the logistics, if you can take as much of the logistics out of it and let them just feel the emotions that they need to feel, it makes things so much easier, I would think.
Yeah, and I always like, estate planning is so serious, but something that's important to me with clients or potential clients coming in when I meet with them is we try to make it lighthearted, right? So we tell stories, or like I share a lot about my family and stuff that's happened. And I feel like I meet so many people and they have a story, regardless if it's about their family or someone they know, about probate and how awful, and they might not refer to it as probate, but somebody died and these things happened and they thought they were like amazing family who was, everyone was so cordial and great, how it fell apart, right? Or like something happened, or like a sibling did this. And you hear these stories and you're like, I know, I just didn't think it was going to happen, but it does. And so like that can all be avoided with proper planning.
That's huge. I think that's huge because I've seen firsthand, like, just in family members and stuff like that, when people die and they're kind of like the matriarch or the patriarch of the family and things weren't really planned out, and now you've got siblings trying to take it, and, well, who thinks that they are speaking the right way and who knows what's really supposed to happen, and it can really tear families apart when they're really
Right.
just probably both sides are probably trying to honor what the person that died, what they really wanted, they just don't know exactly which way it was.
Yeah, definitely. And that when we plan here, like those conversations happen so often, and everyone has things that are important to them, and it's always different. So there's no two plans that should ever look the same, right? Because everyone's family dynamic is very different. So a lot of those conversations happen during the planning process, and we have clients are very hands-on with their planning, and that was important to me too when I
Huge.
built the firm.
And then for our audience, and like, this is being recorded now, so there'll be more people that watch this as we go on. What are like 3 tips that you would give to either somebody like changing their careers or building their own business?
So I would say this is such a lawyer answer, but get your people in place. Like, have your attorney, your CPA, like professionals in place, right? Because if you set it up right first, it's easier in the long run. And take it from me, right? So like I'm always taking care of everybody else, and maybe I didn't do it in the right way because I'm always telling people what to do. And my husband teases me. He's like, "You're teaching people what to do, and you just do this." And I was like, "Right," because they can learn from my mistakes, and it's awesome. Now, so have the right people in place, and then also just like do what your heart is telling you. As hard as it is, like for me, when I told my family I didn't want to practice law right away, that was a really hard conversation, but look where it got me now. I'm like in a great practice. I'm loving it. I have great clients. And just listen to your heart. I know that sounds like so cliche maybe to some people, but it's so true. And
But that
never.
told you
Yeah.
not to second guess it when you went into it. Like
Right.
the fact that you went off and you did your own thing and then you came back to it the way you did, you're not going to second guess it because you already weren't there. You know, you stepped back, you got like the 10,000-foot view of it, and then were able to come back on your terms. And I think that that's really huge.
Yeah, totally. And, pivoting is so key, right? So I always feel like, oh, I've got this, like we're in right shape. And then something will happen and we have to redo it. And I know like that is, I think, the most stressful thing as an entrepreneur, but also there's always something, right? So the hardest time in your life, when you look back, you're like, oh, this is so much easier because I already went through that. So those pivots happen and the shifts happen. And I just think like believing in yourself is so key because you'll always have people that are like naysayers, but if
Mm-hmm.
you want it and you can do it for sure.
100%. And then how would you define success?
This changes all the time. I think we talked about this.
Yeah.
And right now for me, success would be being able to spend time with my family, and also like that balancing effect. And I said there was already the struggle with being an entrepreneur, but I think time for me, like personally and professionally, is hard, and saying no and in certain circumstances to be able to spend time with my family has been a struggle for me because I want to help everyone,
Mm-hmm.
but sticking to boundaries and success is for me is the balancing act of family time plus like doing things for myself, self-care, and being able to educate the community all together.
That's amazing. Okay, is there anything like that you'd want anyone else to know about you or your practice before like we leave for the day?
So what can I need to know about me? Oh, so not everybody knows this. This is really new to our family, but when you feel like life is like really kicking you in the butt, right? We've all felt like that.
Oh
Know that totally.
yeah. Mine's bruised, dude. I don't know what you're talking about. My butt's still bruised from the life be kicking it.
Right, because it happens like you're like ahead and then you're like behind and you're ahead and you're behind in different ways, right? That means different things to everyone, but
Dude, I look back and I'm like, can't you just kick the other butt cheek for a little
right.
bit? Because this one's really hurting.
Totally. Um, so recently, about I think it's 5 weeks ago, and we talked about this. My son, who is almost 2, we had a scary scenario where he was rushed to Boston Children's Hospital, and diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, which means his pancreas stopped working and there's no cure. And it doesn't matter about diet or anything. He just has it. His body, his little baby pancreas is like, oh, I'm shutting down now. And so as a mom, you're like, what do I do? I wish this was happening to me and not him. And we just had to really pivot. And my husband's also an entrepreneur. So we are very busy in terms of like running companies, and we have
Mm-hmm.
employees and all of these people that depend on us. And so you're like this little helpless baby who can't really tell you like he talks, but he's not telling us like full sentences yet.
He's not being like,
Um,
my pancreas decided to stop working,
right.
mom.
Right, totally. So we have really had to have a huge shift in how we are. And, we're up with him at night doing insulin shots, and we're taking care of him and like checking his diet and keeping his life as normal as possible. And we have like such a great support system, which I think is key for anyone, having good people around you with positive energy. So we had to pivot in that. So with that being said, I look at him and he's getting shots and dealing with all these things that he is new to him and to us. And he's so strong and he is just like living life like nothing has changed. And when you hear your 2-year-old be like, pokey mommy, you're like, your heart is like in
Oh,
your gut and you're like, what do I eat? And then also like trying not to cry to be strong. So
yeah.
when you see that little baby being able to handle that, when you want to give up, just think of him and know like he's doing life every day, even with this thing going on in his life that's new to him, and he's managing it. So like anything is possible. And I'm still doing my practice. We're busier than ever. My husband's still doing his company. We're managing the care for Wes, and you can do it. Like as much as like honestly, I was curled up in a ball, like in my closet crying, like the first week we were home. So he didn't see me crying because I want him to be strong, right? And be like, this is normal, this is okay. So you can do anything, really, no matter what is happening. Just keep that positive mindset. That's what
Yeah.
I think.
Childlike positivity and stuff,
Yeah.
right? And then you can go in your closet and cry if you
Yeah.
have to, but then come back out with a smile on your
Maybe the bathroom. I was like, my cat was in there and I was like, she won't tell anyone. And my husband's like, are you crying? I'm like, no, it's fine. I think it's good to let it out. But I just wanted, you just need to like let it go.
You to let it
out.
go.
Yeah.
I don't
and
know if I would trust a cat, man. I swear. I don't know.
You're
All
like, you
right.
have to leave the bathroom. Your cats are crazy. No. But I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. So really, as much as life can be like awful to us, I think that positive mindset,
It's
is so
100%.
important.
Yeah. It actually like changes in the actual brain itself. When we're in a positive mindset or a negative mindset, I should say, our eyes actually begin to like dilate and like they only focus in on the negatives. And like when we're in a positive mindset, the eyes actually change and you can actually see more, like literally see more when you're in a positive mindset. So it's huge that learn from a 2-year-old, right? To stay strong and, stay positive. I want to thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to take us off Facebook.